Yesterday,
what did I just do?
All right. Yesterday, the State Department added the 11th commandment to that list of 10 items
Definitions for anti-Semitism.
One of the new one they added yesterday said you cannot compare Israel to Nazi Germany.
Okay. Nazi-like activity.
Not Nazi-like activities. Yes. Excuse me.
All right. Mike Pompeo, everybody at the State Department, listen up. The Israeli Zionists act like Nazis. Come and get me. Okay, I'm here. Come and get me. They act like Nazis. I'm not going to be told what I can say and what I can believe. I see the video of them shooting 14-year-old Palestinian boys. That's a Nazi. I don't care what their race is. I don't care who they claim to be. When you shoot 14-year-old boys in the head, you're a Nazi. Right? They oppress the Palestinian people. They steal their lands. They rob them. They treat them like animals. Ben Gurion said, we see the Palestinians as donkeys. That's how they view the Palestinians. And I will tell you, State Department, the Israeli Zionists are Nazis. That's my belief, and I have a right as an American citizen to express my views. And I can denounce tyranny any place in the world if I want to. I'm a free American, and nobody can tell me to shut up. The only way you're going to make me shut up is to kill me.
حني يا نبضة بهالقلب حني خي شهيد وراح عالجنة أصعب حقيقة شفتها بعيني يرجع لي يسيب دمه متحني حني يا نبضة بهالقلب حني
لفوه استشهد الله يرحمه. هاي الشاب ملفوف ومحطوط. هاي شالوه.
أصعب حقيقة شفتها بعيني يرجع لي يسيب دمه متحني.
For at least half an hour, the four men had been throwing stones at Israeli soldiers as part of a group of Palestinians. Then they took out their pistols and opened fire on the group of protesters they'd been standing alongside moments before. According to the AFP journalist who filmed what happened at the Beit El checkpoint outside Ramallah, a cry of Mustarabin soon spread through the 100-strong crowd. It's a word that describes people who disguise themselves as Arabs. In the footage, the infiltrators are seen beating a man and shooting their guns before being joined by Israeli soldiers in uniform. 3 Palestinians were injured, 1 seriously during the incident. The protest had been organised by students calling for a third intifada. Israel has refused to say exactly who Wednesday's infiltrators were, although a spokesman has confirmed that its army is equipped with such units. Following a spate of stabbings and violent protests, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said that his security forces would use what he called all necessary means and methods in the fight against terrorism.
You are stealing my house.
And if I don't steal it, someone else is going to steal it.
No one is allowed to steal it, يا عمي. Jacob, you know this is not your house.
Yes, but if I go, you don't go back. So what's the problem? Why are you yelling at me? I didn't do this. I didn't do this.
But
it's easy to yell at me, but I didn't do this.
You are stealing my house.
המתנחלים גונבים יותר ויותר אדמה פלסטינית?
אני לא חושב שאנחנו גונבים אדמה פלסטינית, זה אדמה שזה שלנו עוד מלפני 3,000 ו-4,000 שנה שהובטח לנו, לא באיזה שום גנב, העובדה שהם הלכו ולא קמו ומנסים לקחת לנו את האדמה הזאת, העובדה שהם קמו והלכו, זה גם
מי קם והלכו?
הפלסטינים, ובואו ננסה לעשות...
רגע, מתי? רגע,
בואו נעשה שתי השחזור בהיסטוריה, הירדנים היו פה לפני כביכול שקם מדינת ישראל, קמו הירדנים היו פה והיה פה מלחמות, זה לא שהם היו פה ושלטו והיה להם, זה לא היה שלהם, זה היה תמיד בשליטה של מישהו אחר. מדינת ישראל תמיד הייתה במלחמות מול כל העולם שהיו... אבל
נגיד, ניקח דוגמה של מעלה אדומים, היו פלסטינים פה לפני?
אני לא יודע, אני פה בסך הכל 5 שנים במעלה אדומים, אני בירושלים במקור, ותמיד יגידו לך, היו פה או לא היו פה, זה מלחמה שתמיד אפשר להתווכח עליה.
אם היה הוכחה, שאני לא יודע באמת אם היו, כי אנחנו מעלה אדומים אמצע מדבר, אז אני לא יודע אם היו נגיד בדואים או משהו, נגיד שהיו, מה אתה אומר על זה?
אני לא יודע, אני לא יודע את ההיסטוריה כל כך עד הסוף שאני יכול לענות לך תשובה.
Why do you steal land from the Palestinians?
This is a question related to history, yeah? And stealing is not the word, it's conquer. We conquer. Every state, every nation in the history conquered. So we conquered the territory of the Arabs. They left, so now it's ours. Now they want to take it away in their own way. It's fine by me.
Okay, so what do you mean it's fine by you?
It's fine by me if they want their territory back, so they fight for it. If they bomb, they bomb, they kill, their own way.
So you can even understand?
Yes, I can understand.
Okay, so what do you think should happen then? How do we stop, if let's say the goal is to end violence,
okay.
How do we do that?
Like we as a people, we as a country, we
whatever,
as a
government? Whatever you think.
I don't know. We want to hold the land, yeah? I don't want to release my home. So I think the fight will never end.
Palestine and Israel. It's complicated. Well, at least that's what some people would like you to think. We've long been sold the narrative of a tit-for-tat skirmish of rockets, a real estate dispute, or even a centuries-old religious feud. There's so much more to the story of Palestine we all need to know. So, how did we get here? Let's take it back to the beginning. It starts with the end of a world war, Muslims fighting each other, and a promise made by the West only a century ago. So here's how the story begins. It's 1916, and the First World War is raging on. The Ottoman Empire is 617 years old at this point and is on the brink of collapse. The British and the French had promised the Arabs sovereignty and Arab leadership over the Arabian Peninsula and the Levant if they helped them defeat the Ottomans. And so the Arabs said, okay, and so they helped them defeat the Ottomans. Now I know what you're thinking. What's this got to do with Palestine and the creation of Israel? Just trust me, we'll get there. Okay, so when the British and the French won, the Arabs wanted the land that was promised to them, but little did they know, the British and the French had this little top secret meeting. And in this top secret meeting, it was planned that the captured Ottoman province will be divided into areas of British and French control and influence. The British would receive Palestine, Jordan, and southern Iraq, while the French would control southeastern Turkey, northern Iraq, Syria, and Lebanon. This was called the Sykes-Picot Agreement. But then the Arabs found out about this agreement and they were shocked. They had been bamboozled and tricked. They thought that they were fighting a war in order to overthrow their non-Arab Muslim rulers, only to end up with, you guessed it, European colonial rulers instead. Anyway, that's a long story for another video. Now that the British occupy Palestine, something unusual is happening back in Europe. You see, the Zionist movement had been growing increasingly influential and lobbied hard to support the mass migration of Jews to Palestine and recognize a Jewish claim to the Palestinian land. And in 1917, Britain, out of nowhere, publicly declared its intentions of establishing a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. So the British just gifted Palestine, a country which was made up of 90% Palestinians, to European Zionists. They gave it just like you would give a box of chocolates. Historians still debate till this day why the British gave Palestine to Zionists. It's simply baffling. Now, at this point, the Jewish population in Palestine was less than 10%. So when the British started to facilitate the immigration of European Jews to Palestine from 1922 and 1935, the Jewish population rose to 27%. With the British mandate in full swing, mass European Jewish immigration meant that more land would be seized and the native Palestinian population grew increasingly worried. The Palestinians would demonstrate their concerns to their British overlords, but they wouldn't have it. European Jewish settlement was on the rise. The British proposed a partition of Palestine and even advised the forceful removal of the Arab population from their homes. And yes, this was their plan to resolve the issue. So the Palestinians naturally rejected this proposal and revolted against the British. The revolts were crushed violently, killing thousands of Palestinians. But the Palestinians wouldn't give up. They would continue their fight for independence, and the British were clearly fed up. So in 1947, the British decided to hand over their responsibility for Palestine to the United Nations. So basically, they just said, here, clean our mess. And so the UN proposed this ridiculous proposal again, where Palestine will be partitioned into a Jewish and Arab state. Remember, Jews in Palestine only constituted 1/3 of the population, most of whom arrived from Europe just a few years earlier. Yet, in this proposal, they were allocated 55% of the land. Feeling like they got a bad deal again, the Arabs rejected the proposal, and the Zionists accepted. However, here's the catch. The Zionists didn't agree to the proposed borders, and even campaigned for more land. So they agreed to an Israeli state, but didn't agree to the size of it, so they can just choose it for themselves. By 1948, Zionist militia would storm and capture Palestinian populated villages and cities, leaving thousands of Palestinians homeless and landless. The Zionists wanted to seize and cleanse as much land from Palestine before the British would officially withdraw their forces. And on the same day that they left, the Zionists proclaimed the establishment of the new Israeli state. Overnight, millions of Palestinians lost their country. And what's even more bizarre is that immediately the two superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union, recognized the new state of Israel. And if it couldn't get any worse, May 15th, 1948 was perhaps one of the darkest days in Palestine's history. They called it the Nakba, or the catastrophe. To lose your country, your identity, and your home just like that is something truly horrifying. But that wasn't enough for those Palestinian men, women, and children. They had to be ethnically cleansed from their lands and driven into near total destruction. See, the creation of the State of Israel didn't just mean that 1.9 million Palestinians were forced out of their homes. Didn't just mean that 78% of historic Palestine had been taken from its natives. Didn't just mean that 530 villages and cities were destroyed and ethnically cleansed. And didn't just mean the killing of 15,000 Palestinians in a series of mass atrocities. It means that it was the start of something even more horrifying for the Palestinian people. It signaled over 70 years of occupation, home demolitions, arbitrary arrests, displacements, Israeli expansion, military checkpoints, construction of walls, discrimination, massacres, and bombing of innocent men, women, and children in their own homes. So no, it's not complicated. The Palestinians are a people who have been oppressed and had their lands taken away from them and have been suffering ever since. This is how the events of the past shape the conditions of today. This is why it is important to remember and reflect our history before it repeats itself again. Because Allah knows we don't need it to happen again in another part of the world. May Allah lift the pain and the struggles from our Palestinian brothers and sisters. Ameen.